So I mentioned to you about how you're going to quickly use a sort of tracing stroke sketching method to whip the relevant parts out of each image and kind of position it to make your scenes. And this is straight out of the Procreate course, really just using a reference like this as a tracing mechanism. And this, as you're tracing, you will build muscle memory, so it'll get faster and easier for you to just pull out the components that you need and create them in the right shape. So I'm using this little Ted from behind, and really what you're doing is you're not looking for all the details and the shadows and so on. You're looking for the main components, a little bit like that Teddy video that I showed you. So the biggest component here would be the body, and that's kind of what I think of as an anchoring component because everything else kind of falls off it. So we've got body there, and then the little tail like this. Head can go on top, and I'm using circles, even though you can see that his head is not perfectly circular. So if your Ted's head is not a perfect circle, that's okay. You can always, when you get to the outlining point of view, you just firm up the actual shape. But to put the ears on each side like this and position them, you want this full circle of the head. When you go and outline, then you'd obviously not bother to outline all the way here like this because you would want it to flow into the body. And then we've got the arms. So I tend to do a little circle like this, almost like a shoulder joint. And then I do a bigger circle at the bottom, and I can go and just create that roundness of each limb like that. Okay, so that's Ted like that. And then we've got this hint of his legs going away like that. And we can always put in a few little rough lines. And then once you get into this, it really does build muscle memory quite quickly. So if you trace roughly like this, then you can go back and say in pretty much the same order. And sometimes it helps to do this. Just train yourself a little bit to draw Ted quickly. So there we've got that first anchor shape, which is his body. Then we put in this little circle for his tubby little tail. And on top, we want to get a similar sort of size shape, head. So you can see that I made this circle a little bit small. But when we go in and put in those lines next to it, we can see that we can put in his head. And then obviously with the bear, where we put those ear circles and the sort of angle of them is going to determine if we put them on top, it's not going to look so much like a bear. Bears do tend to have their ears on the sides of their head like that. And now we can go down and say, okay, we need to put in his little shoulder like this on each side. And then we need a bigger part like that to create this kind of curve for his arm. And this one here, this arm is slightly different on this side, like that. And then we need to give this sort of hint of the legs going away like that and underneath. And we would put in some lines like that. And if we wanted to, you could put a little curve like this, almost like a hint of a seam like that. Helps to show a little bit of roundness. You can see there's a hint of a seam there. So if we just line those up, top and bottom, it gives us a hint of roundness, head and shoulders. And then you go in and you do your outline. So I'm going to choose the studio pen here quickly. And because we're looking at him from behind, his ears will kind of be on the front of his head. I'm going to take this up a little bit. So we can do it like this. Round, this, and round. Ear on one side, ear on the other side. Head curling. And then here we can take this. I'm going to erase slightly here. We can go and take this down into his body like this. I'm going to bring his body round here, put the tail on, body round here, because we know that his body does, there's a difference, his body is kind of between us and his arms because he is facing away from us. So the body kind of gets between us and the top of his arms like that. And then we've got his little legs like this. So his arms are here and here. This one's going to be odd here. I've got to bring his neck down and join it to his arm like that. And then we've got his leg going here like this. So now we've got Ted from behind, and we've got a little bit of dimension to him, and we can go and fill in our color layer in between here. So now we've got a color layer which is going to go in here, and whether you do it with pastel or you do it so soft pastel or something else is going to be up to you. But that's how I suggest you start creating your characters, or just getting faster and faster at sketching and tracing them, because you want to sketch in these big components, and then you literally build yourself almost a scaffolding so that you can put each component in place relative to the others. So body, tail, head, ear, shoulder, hand, and then into our outline. Okay, so that is tracing to get your teddy into your head so that you can create him quickly.